Relic of the Time by Danny Fantod. Zoe always wanted to take the long way around the lake. She liked to see the maples in spring and autumn and the blooming chicory in summer. She liked the way the sun reflected off the ice in winter. Most of all, I think, she loved the old two-storied farmhouse we passed on the way, a relic of the time when corn was king. I would slow to a crawl if no one was behind us, so she could take in the view. I remember how excited she was when the property owners gave her permission to make a study of the house. They were planning to level it to clear the land for a new suburb, with prices starting in the low 300,000s. She planned to capture it from every angle, to preserve in pigment the scallop siding, the gabled porch, the pointed arch windows, before the bulldozer came. Shame they won't preserve the old place, I said. Would add some character to the cookie-cutter neighborhood they're building. I'd fix it up if we could afford it, she replied, a wistful look in her eyes. But it's not safe. The floors are rotted through and the ceiling's falling in. She gathered her materials, replenished her tubes of acrylic, stretched new canvases. On Monday morning she set out with her easel and a three-legged stool. I brewed her a thermos of black tea and wished her luck, begged her to be careful. I remember the light that shined in her eyes as she waved me goodbye and backed out of the driveway. The light burned even brighter when we reunited that evening, and she breathlessly described her adventure. That became our dinner-time routine for the next few weeks. Me telling her about my day writing press releases, her showing me sketches of every new perspective she discovered. One drawing she made gave me pause, a view of the derelict kitchen with sunlight streaming through the windows. You didn't go inside, did you?" I asked. No, she assured me. I only looked in the windows. "Honey, I don't think you should do that," I replied. "You said yourself the structure isn't safe." "I'll be careful," she said, chastened. But after that she wasn't so forthcoming with her sketches, nor so glowing in the descriptions of her activities. One day I had occasion to leave the office early and pass through town on my way to the doctor. I decided to drive past the house and saw her sitting in the yard, poised on her three-legged stool with hands on knees, seemingly just contemplating. I slowed to a crawl, but she didn't notice as I drew abreast. Unwilling to interrupt her reverie, I crept on past. I thought it curious, though, that the canvas on her easel was unmarked in any way, starkly white in the afternoon sun. The Waltherson house wasn't the first on the property. Wilhelm and Abigail built a 4-room flint cabin when they settled here in 1860, they and their 5 children. Its stones were later repurposed, but you can still see the foundation in the yard. Zoe's study of the house included the family that built it. She'd been poring over files at the courthouse and the library. Now she spoke as if she had personal insight. The house we see now was built in 1882 from a plan by George Rhymes. It reminded Abigail of her family home in Virginia. Materials were delivered by train, in inauguration of the farm's new rail siding. A personal rail siding? The Walthersons must have been a big deal. I knew they farmed 1,000 acres along the road that now bore their name. Their prominence was reflected in the fine features of the new house, especially the glass windows with colored insets, the turned wood posts and balusters, and the slate tile roof. Now that I thought of it, it was a rather nice house for the time. I had guessed it was built much later based on the architectural details I could see from the road. Inside you would find machine-woven woolen rugs over polished hardwood floors, and the smooth plastered walls featured wallpaper with patterns in the arts and crafts style, favoring bright colors to balance the darkness of the wood. Those were interesting details, to be sure, but I couldn't see the relevance to Zoe's project. Those rugs and wallpapers wouldn't still be there, and if they were, she couldn't go inside to see them. 5 generations of Walthersons called the house a home until the last resident sold it off with the remaining quarter section of land. 6 of the family died in the house, including Wilhelm and Abigail, and also their granddaughter Lisa, who took her own life, though influenza is listed as the cause of death. I coughed as the conversation took the odd turn. Who told you this? Ellen Waltherson fell from a ladder and broke her neck. She lay there in agony for hours before she died. People were not convinced it was an accident, and her husband ended up leaving the state and changing his name. With a nervous chuckle, I said, "Okay, you're starting to scare me." Ellen's brother Kern took over the house and modernized it, bringing the plumbing and electrical wiring up to date. Kern's wife, Patsy, coveted the house and wasn't sad that her sister-in-law died. though she cried enough at the funeral. I couldn't take any more. Zoe, stop. Stop talking like that. Her eyes slowly came into focus. Don't worry, love. Those are just things that happened a long time ago. I felt misgivings after that, watching her load the car to go in the morning. I felt relief when she came home in the evening, grateful to see her smiling eyes across the dinner table. Then came the evening Zoe didn't come home. I waited an hour, not waiting to appear paranoid. By 7, I could stand it no longer and drove to the house, my headlights piercing the gloom. I found her car there in the overgrown shale driveway. Parking on the shoulder, I retrieved a flashlight from my emergency kit, and with the dust chorus of cicadas droning around me, I peered in the windows of her car. I found brushes and paints, canvases, sketchbooks. There was one half-finished painting and a few dozen sketches, most of which I had already seen. There was no easel, no three-legged stool. I stood in the driveway and surveyed the yard, then turned the flashlight on the house. The light did not penetrate into the dark cavities of empty pointed arch windows, but reflected brightly off the remaining panes of glass. I cautiously approached the house, sweeping the ground before me with my light. My hands shook as I climbed on the gabled porch, the aged timbers groaning horribly. But my wife was missing, and I couldn't help but think she was lying just inside the door, needing my help. Hard in my throat, I peered in the window and cast the beam of light all about. I saw nothing but debris and broken sticks of furniture. It occurred to me that this might be a crime scene, much as I hated to think it, and that if I searched further I might be destroying vital evidence. Feeling a sense of relief and loathing myself for it, I retreated from the porch and walked back to my car while dialing the police. For hours I sat in the back of a squad car, answering the detectives' innocuous-sounding questions, and waiting for answers, praying for answers, and dreading them, too. Through the night, the police searched the yard and surrounding area in growing concentric circles. Another, smaller team searched the house from the crumbling roof to the flooded basement. They found the interior utterly ruined, empty and dilapidated. Nothing like how Zoe imagined it. That wasn't all they found, though. She's been inside the house, or somebody has, the detective said, inviting me to walk up the driveway toward the porch. There are footprints in the dust throughout, your wife's shoe size. My heart sank when I heard this, suspecting he was leading up to the revelation of Zoe's body lying underneath a broken piece of floor. But he assured me that she wasn't there now. We did find this, though, he said, gesturing to a painted canvas on an easel that had been brought out of the house. In the glare of the portable floodlights, I studied the painting. It depicted the living room of a farmhouse as it might have looked 100 years ago, richly furnished and a fire blazing in the fireplace. And staring into the fire, poised on a three-legged stool with hands on knees, sat a woman much like my wife, a wistful smile on her face.